friends, Ginny D here, and while you may know me as a person who likes to do a lot of goofy accents, I firmly believe that you do not need to use accents in order to create a unique voice for your role-playing character. Unless you're talking about role-playing in the bedroom, in which case they are absolutely essential. Oi! If you think I'm showing you me April, you're having a laugh. Piss off! Today, we are going to talk about how to create a unique voice for your character, and then we will talk about how to actually learn to use it during roleplay. There are already a bunch of great videos out there about how to create character voices, but I've found that a lot of them are targeted specifically at actors, and they lean a lot on the vocabulary and the skill set of actors. Most D&D players are not actors. Critical Role George, who lives in LA and is 8 actors in a trench coat, is an outlier and should not have been counted. My hope is to make this video basically just a more accessible version of those tips, specifically targeted at players who don't have much experience with acting and improv and just want to learn some skills to make their games more interesting and more fun. This is the 101 class, but if you want some higher level stuff, I will link to some resources that go more in depth on these topics in the description. Also, surprising no one, I need to add a disclaimer. I just want to make it clear that you do not have to do this. You can have a ton of fun role-playing with just your regular voice. Not all tables will be the kinds of tables that welcome character acting, and that is up to you and your DM and your party. This video is just a resource for those who, for whatever reason, want to develop and use a character voice. Alright, consider yourself disclaimed. Please feel free to ignore it, make your own assumptions about what I'm saying, and yell at me about it in the comments. Now, let's talk about creating a voice. There are a ton of different factors that can go into creating a voice, but I'm gonna break them down into 3 main sections: physicality, personality, and quirks. Making unique decisions within each of these 3 categories is what makes your voice unique. It's why Mickey Mouse and Princess Peach don't sound the same, even though they both have high-pitched voices. The pitch is not the only identifying feature of each character's voice. Let's start with the physicality. I'm using this to refer to the actual nature of the voice, the things that mostly don't change with different emotions in different circumstances. The pitch, the pace, the texture. If someone has a husky or raspy voice, it's gonna sound husky or raspy no matter what they're saying or how they're feeling. Kristen Chenoweth is always gonna be speaking at a higher pitch than, say, Scarlett Johansson. I'm a person who tends to talk really fast, and it takes real intentionality to slow myself down. All these are features that you can apply to a character voice. How is your character's voice pitched? For Cleo, the tiefling bard I recently got to play as a guest in 2 episodes of the D&D podcast Cast Party, I knew I wanted her to have a deeper voice than my natural speaking voice. To me, it felt like it had more gravity and gave an impression of someone who wouldn't take any shit. Meanwhile, when I played Brilliance, the tiefling sorcerer on the Roll for Charity stream, I wanted to give an impression of a naive, inexperienced young girl, so I pitched her voice higher than my natural tone. What about the pace? Does your character speak quickly, or are they more thoughtful and deliberate? Does their voice have a specific texture to it, like a hoarse voice or a nasal voice or a breathy voice? Their physical body can influence some of these things. For example, a younger character may speak with a higher pitch, or an older character may have a rasp to their voice. A very small gnome might speak in a high, squeaky voice, and a huge Goliath might speak in a huge, deep voice. If you're not sure of what features to consider for this section, try checking out some YouTube videos or put on a TV show and try to take notes on each person's voice. What traits make up the sound of their voice? What makes these 2 people sound different from each other? Actively listening for the features of a voice can help you just wrap your head around all the different options. Now, let's talk about personality. Is your character often angry? Are they a nervous person? Do they have a sultry, sexy vibe? Are they talkative? All these things can impact the way that your character speaks. It can be easy for a talkative person to say, my character is a quiet loner while they're writing up a character sheet, but then default to their own chatty nature while actually playing. But learning to incorporate those personality traits into the way your character actually speaks can really bring depth to your roleplay. For example, a person who has an angry nature might speak sharply, with strong emphasis and hard consonants, even when they're not actively enraged. A character who's flirty or seductive might have a breathy, low voice that feels inviting and evocative. A nervous character might stutter a little and repeat themselves, and they might be anxious to say anything too firm, if that works for you. As an exercise to translate personality into voice, try making a list of 3 to 5 adjectives that describe your character's personality. For example, my matchmaker Edith's list might say lonely, optimistic, curious. Then go down that list and try to brainstorm ways that each of those traits might influence how someone speaks. A lonely person might be very engaged, speaking quickly quickly or maybe in a very high volume because they're just excited to be involved in the conversation. A curious person might use a lot of upward inflection because they're asking a lot of questions. Finally, I want to talk about quirks. This can totally have some crossover with personality, but while the personality section is still about how your character says something, this one is meant to be more about what your character actually says. Think about characters who have well-known verbal traits, like Alexis from Schitt's Creek saying like in between like every third word, or Hermione Granger using a lot of big vocabulary words. This can be subtle, like Jester repeating a word at the beginning and end of the sentence. Like, technically that's not really how it works technically. Or it might be more obvious, like Velma saying Jinkies or Buzz Lightyear saying to infinity and beyond. It can also be more general, like are they the kind of person who apologizes a lot? Or says, does that make sense, after they explain something? Are they the kind of person who makes a lot of puns or a lot of innuendos? Are they the type to use metaphors or similes while describing something? You don't have to have a lot of quirks, but coming up with at least one can help differentiate this character from others. Plus, it can give you a quick shorthand way to characterize someone in roleplay. My DM Harlan has a great video where they talk about the acting principles that go into character voices, specifically for use by DMs to give unique voices to NPCs. It's a little more technical than what I've just gone over, but it's a great resource if you want to learn more. I will link it in the comments, as well as another video for actors about how to come up with hundreds of different sounding voices using just a handful of specific factors. Of course, brainstorming a character voice is not the same thing as actually being able to use it in your game. A lot of people have fun ideas for voices, but feel self-conscious or even incapable of using those voices on the fly during sessions. So next, I'm going to talk about actual practical tips for using the voices that you've designed. But first, what's wrong? Did they cancel Glow?
No. I mean, yes, and it was a terrible move. That show's incredible, but that's not why I'm crying. Today's sponsor is just so tragic.
What's the sponsor?
Penny Dragon Games Kickstarter for Eisendor's Vault of Tragic Treasure. It's 300 pages of magic items and lore compatible with 5th edition D&D. Some of the items come from tragic origins, but others are tragic by nature and may bring tragedy to your players.
You seem to be taking it pretty hard.
Oh, I am. And that's not all either. It's chaos.
Oh?
There's an adventure book too, Order of Elemental Chaos, which takes your players to the elemental planes in an epic tug of war between gods and titans. If they can't stop genies and ancient primordials from upsetting the balance between order and chaos, the material plane could be torn asunder.
Is there anything I can do to help? Do you want a hug?
That would be a lot of compositing effort for an ad.
Fair enough.
You could always visit the link in the description and pledge on Kickstarter. Alongside the 2 books, they're also offering STL files for 3D printing miniatures. And the first pack of 7 creatures is free to all backers.
There. Alright, let's talk about how to learn to actually use character voices at the table. The first and most obvious answer is the one that nobody wants to hear, but I have to say it anyway. Practice. You just gotta practice. The more you do it, the less it feels like work, and the more you can just kind of slip into that voice like a pair of shoes. And just like a new pair of shoes, it takes time to break them in. At first, you'll have to be really conscious of exactly what's coming out of your mouth. You might need to remind yourself of some of the traits that you wanted to use for this voice. Maybe you'll catch your voice drifting back into your natural register, and you'll have to consciously shift it back up or down. The more you do that, the more you can focus on what you're saying, instead of how you're saying it. I really think that's the hardest part about using a voice in-game. If you have to think about doing the voice, it's a lot harder to also think about the game itself. The key to successfully adding a voice to your character is to just get comfortable using that voice outside of sessions. I talked about this a little in the video that I made about how to do Jester's accent, but practicing a voice is super easy as long as you have room in your life to just talk to yourself. I practice while I'm doing the dishes or folding laundry, while I'm in the car, while I'm in the shower. You can narrate whatever you're doing, you can try to recite quotes or song lyrics that you already have memorized, but in the voice that you're practicing. If you really want to dedicate some focused time to it, pick up a book or a magazine and try to read it out loud in that voice. It probably won't take long to get used to it. I only practiced Jester's voice for a few weeks before I felt like I had really settled into it. And for a voice that doesn't use an accent, it would probably be even faster. Another trick that I've learned from doing accents also applies here, and it's having a phrase that puts you into character. Someone once told me that the phrase that they use to get into an Australian accent is razor blades. That is, riser blades. When I worked at the Renaissance Festival, some people would actually have trouble dropping their English accent after a full weekend in character. And the phrase that my friends used to push them back into American English was, "The beer is in the pickup truck." Find a phrase that you think really suits your character. It could just be a combination of words, or it could even be some existing quote or lyric that fits their character. Make sure it's a phrase that really highlights the things that you identified in part 1 as defining the voice: the physicality, the personality, and the quirks. For example, since I wanted Cleo in Cast Party to have a low, kind of sarcastic, sassy voice, I used some Meg quotes from Hercules to get into that headspace. Well, you know how men are. They think no means yes and get lost means take me, I'm yours. Finally, and this one's really important, it'll help a lot to just accept that it'll be a little uncomfortable for a while. It's definitely nerve-wracking to try something new in front of other people. And I think as a society, we often shame people for trying too hard or caring too much, which can make it scary to do something new and just expose that you give a fuck. I think it's a good idea to talk with your table about it. Just let them know, hey, I really want to try this, and it might feel a little silly, but I just want to give it a shot. Who knows, maybe other people at your table also want to try voices but don't want to be the first to break the ice. But even if they don't, just letting them know that you're gonna test out a voice can take some of the fear factor out of it. Also, you don't have to stick with it. It's okay for your character voice to change over time, or even for you to later decide that you just don't want to do it anymore. If you find that you're just not that into it, you can stop. It's a game. Some of the stress I've felt about doing a character voice is thinking, what if I end up hating it or having trouble keeping up with it? But there's no roleplay police who are gonna put you in jail for changing your mind. Even though I love doing voices and accents and character gimmicks on this channel, like Necrasha's accent or Edith's or Clover the Bard speaking in rhyme, full disclosure, I'm pretty shy about voices in actual gameplay. It feels like a big commitment, especially on a streamed or recorded show. So don't feel bad if you're nervous. Trust me, you are not alone. But doing voices can also be so much fun, and if you're interested in trying it out, I really think you should. Just remember to have reasonable expectations for yourself. Don't compare yourself to professional actors if you can help it. Start small and build up to more extreme voices over time if you're scared. By the way, I released a new music video last week, and judging by the analytics, a lot of you haven't seen it yet, so maybe go check that out. I worked really hard on it and I think it's super cute. It's called Roll Up Your Attributes, and I will link it on this screen.